Hello everyone, Gary Lineker here from the Rest is Football. We've got something a little different today. No Alan nor Micah, but joining us is none other than the host of the Rest is Politics and football fan, Alastair Campbell, and a certain Héctor Bellerín. The reason being, this is the football's Great Save campaign that Héctor is an ambassador of. So basically, we're mixing football and politics. So what could possibly go wrong? Héctor, as a former Barcelona man and Arsenal man, you must have been delighted last night.
Very delighted, especially for the former Arsenal man that I was. I mean, I wasn't surprised by the result, I have to say. I don't know how it's going to be at the Bernabeu. It's a complete different game over there. But it's easy to say after the result, but I was completely sure that was going to happen for me.
I trust, Alastair, that you were watching Burnley draw 0-0 yet again rather than watching Arsenal.
I was watching Derby 0, Burnley 0, and checking out how many times Héctor had ever had the honour of playing at Turf Moor. He played Burnley 8 times, in his time at Arsenal.
Yeah.
Good stat, that.
Yeah, always tough over there.
I just want to ask about your name, because in Spanish, the H is always silent. So I presume it's Héctor. Héctor, no? Or is it different because, Héctor.
I had an uncle called Hector because Hector's a very Scottish name.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Remember Hector's house?
My dad gave me that name because he's very into Greek mythology.
Oh.
So I always thought that my Achilles would end my career. But it's not very popular. There's very popular names in Spain like Jose, Juan, Antonio, etc. It's not in that category. But I think in Latin America, there's way more Hectors than there are in Spain, for sure.
But do you call yourself Hector or Héctor?
No, I call myself Héctor. But, when I speak English, it's very difficult to call myself Héctor. It's just Hector. It just comes out now.
Sounds like you had an interesting upbringing, because I don't think too many footballers' fathers would have probably been into Greek mythology.
Well, my dad studied to become a language teacher all his life. He was very into reading, into writing. My mum had always worked at a sweatshop making clothes, so I had a bit of both sides. They're both one of my passions nowadays. I started writing like a couple of years ago. I actually write for a British magazine lately, which is something that I really, really enjoy. I discovered not long ago that was something I could really do and I could really enjoy in such manner. But if I'm honest, while I was young, clothes or words, letters, etc., that was nothing I cared about, really. I was just, my dad took me to play football since I was like 3-4 years old. And I never thought about anything other than that. Even my last few years at school, being 14, 15, teachers would ask me like, what kind of career would I want to take on? I always had it clear I wanted to be a footballer, and so many of them told me like, that's very difficult. That's not going to happen. That's like 1 in a million opportunity, etc., etc. But, I beat the rule, So when I look back, I always think that back in the day, there was no other option for me, really.
Yeah, you play football, Hector, in several countries. I'd just like what are the differences between being a footballer in Spain and being a footballer in England and Portugal? And what's your overriding memories of Arsenal, of London, of the UK?
Well, these are questions that I didn't really think about while I was in those countries, while I was playing. A big thought that I have nowadays, and it's very recurrent, is that when I was playing for Arsenal, I was really young. I basically became an adult in my time over there. And now when I look Arsenal games and I look at the club, I think like, wow, this club is so big. I never even realized how massive, how important, how many people it affects, how many people support this club, and just how big it is. I feel like football also doesn't give you the time to really think about these more existential kind of matters. You have like 2-3 games in a week. You're just getting ready for the next one, recovering from the one before. So many things happening. And I remember when I had my cruciate, when I tore my ligaments in 2019, I think it was, and I stopped for 6 months. I was like, what the hell? I didn't even have a chance to realize that I'm only 24. I've played 200 games for Arsenal. I've won these trophies. I've lived all of this. And, football is just kind of like this snowball, that once you start going down, it's very tough to stop. Even the summer holidays nowadays are not even holidays. After a week, you have to start getting ready for the next season. If you want to be one of the guys that the coach, is ready to play at the beginning of the season. So they're very different countries. I think I've enjoyed playing football most in the UK. I feel also the style of play is something that suited my way of playing football. In Spain, I've enjoyed more the technical stuff of the game. I feel like other different kind of details mattered most in the games. The quality of life for me in Spain is also better, which is something that it affects while playing. And in Portugal, I was only had the opportunity to be there for 4 months when I went to Sporting Lisbon. The team was already in a bad situation because, over there, if you're not first, that means you're in a bad situation. And I think we were sitting fourth at the time. But I really enjoyed living in that country. I felt that it was very serene. It was very calm. I lived in a very small town. I knew all my neighbors really quickly. It's kind of like in the movies, It seems like there's also like this yellow filter that they put in the movies, living around in that place. And I feel like I've picked up lots of good memories in football overall. I was actually wrote a piece not long ago called The Three Suns, because I always remembered that the sun came out 3 times during my time in London. One was when we played 3:00 at the Emirates. The other one was when I arrived and they showed me the city. It was May and it was very sunny, and I felt like the city kind of lied to me a little bit, because I went there for a weekend and I was like, there's no rain here. This is lovely. And then the third time was when we played the finals at Wembley. It was always sunny. It was end of the season. And, it seems odd, but it feels like there was a massive light that was always there for the most important times that I lived in London. So I have so much love for it. I've missed so many parts of it as well. But also, going back to the football.
What about friendship in football, Hector? Do you have people that you played with at Arsenal that you would say were still close friends? Yeah,
I do. There's actually, I think the most important one, or one of the most important ones, is Nacho Monreal. We were both starting fullbacks for a time at Arsenal, and Nacho is just a very normal guy. It's weird to describe someone as normal, but when you're talking about football, that is such a compliment, I have to say. And we still meet up almost every summer, and we spend like 3-4 days together. We chat quite a lot. I'm also really close to Serge Gnabry. That it was a guy that was told that he wasn't good enough to play for West Brom, but he ended up being Bayern Munich best player of the season a couple of times. I don't know if you know about him, but he's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Arsenal, I actually made the trip with a teammate from Barcelona that we played together since we were 8 years old. His name was John Torrell. He played for Birmingham City. He played for Hull City. Yeah. And now he's playing in Mumbai City. And we're also pretty close. And those for me are like 3 of the friendships that over a long period of time have sustained that bit of magic. I have so many friends here at Betis, but those are friendships that are still, we still see each other every day. We still talk with each other every day. But it's a difficult thing to keep in football. I'm sure Gary can tell you, because football is, as I said before, is a snowball. And even though you try to get together and still chat to each other and stuff, life kind of takes you out, every now and then. So it's pretty difficult.
It's very true. You grew up close to Barcelona, and you were part of the Barcelona youth setup for quite a while. How difficult was it then to leave Barcelona for London and Arsenal?
It wasn't a tough decision, I have to say, at the time. I've always been a very impulsive person, and for some reason, Arsenal was always a team that I liked. I can't say that I used to watch every single game of them, but I always used to remember Thierry Henry, Fabregas, which was pretty big in Spain, already making moves in the UK. And there was always a team, even like the badge. When I was young, I really liked the badge. So these are things that when they told me that Arsenal were interested in me, I was very quick to accept just the invitation to see the city, be proposed a contract, and learn what they were expecting from me. And I was on the plane back, and I was already telling my agent, like, I'm coming, like, the decision is made. And he was like, well, you want to speak to your parents, take some time. I was like, I don't care what they have to say. I'm 16, I want to go, And it's true that once I got to the UK, I found it pretty tough. I remember my first, I had played as a winger my whole youth, and Arsenal wanted me to play as a right back. And my first game, we played Watford at London Colney. I played the second half, and I remember that the the left winger was just killing me. Every time he was going past me, he was doing everything, And Steve Bold, bless him, he realized that he had a lot of work to do that season, and he ended up playing me as a right wing, and I ended up scoring the winner of the. And then for a time, I hoped that I was going to still be a winger for the time at Arsenal, but it wasn't like that. Steve actually did a great job with me, and he spent extra hours working on my defensive skills and the tactics and like the body profiles, everything. And I'm very grateful for him, because he was a very important defender for the club, but he's also been a very important coach that has affected so many of the players that now are playing, not just for Arsenal, but are playing in the Premier League. And it was very tough, because I think that Barcelona taught me how to play for Barcelona. And when I arrived to Arsenal, I realized that football was totally different, that there was so many other things about it that I wasn't learning. And I felt that the UK really made me a footballer in all the other aspects, like being more physical or in the defensive side of it. So I guess it was the perfect timing for me to learn that other side. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I had the luck to make a career of playing football.
Are you always going to be involved in football? Will you become a coach? Will you? Well, you're at that age now where you might be thinking about life beyond football. What are you thinking?
You know what? I actually hope I don't. I really enjoy football. I enjoy analysing it. I really enjoy being close to it. But I feel that it's very tough to manage football and manage your mental health well nowadays. I feel like it's a very unhealthy habit, playing football professionally. And I have this feeling.
In what way? How is it unhealthy, Héctor?
Well, there's a lot of physical pain. There's a lot of physical strain, mental strain. There's no time to rest, and there's no time to enjoy the things in life that actually most possibly will make you happy. I don't have a lot of time to be close to my friends and my family. I don't have a lot of time to socialize. I don't have any time to proactively take on and learn something else. My brain is constantly thinking about the next game I have to play, and that affects how I sleep, that affects how I eat, that affects everything in my life. And I feel doing that for however long I take my career, I feel that that'll be good enough, and with time I've realized that obviously football is the most important thing of the less important things in my life, but I really want to check what else there is out there. As I say, I've been writing quite a lot. I love reading. I've been reading for years, and that's sort of, I can imagine myself not having to wake up at 8 a.m. to run and just thinking about waking up to just read or to just write, for example. And I don't know if after a month I'll be bored of that and I'll be running on in the street, or I'll be playing football with my friends or whatever, But I've always been very curious about what kind of different lives I could live. And at the moment, since I'm 16, I've always just lived one. And I would love to see what else there is out there, you know.
I don't know whether this cuts across the arrangement you already have, but I'm editor-at-large at the New European. I would love you to write for the New European anytime you want.
Thank you. That's a good job offer. I'll look into it because it's something that I've been doing quite a long time now. But I feel I have a big imposter syndrome, mate. I even have it with football, you know. So
really,
yeah, I mean, I'm that kind of person. I'm a perfectionist. I want to do everything well. You know, I've been writing, but I've only done like my compulsory studies in Spain. I want to possibly go to university. I want to learn about language. You know about linguistics. It's something that's like fascinating. I would love to just learn something like that, and I would love to have a background in which my work could sit on, you know. I feel like a lot of the things I write or a lot of the things I do come from intuition, come from reading, from other things that I've learned. But, you know, there's a lot of technicalities inside of there. That's like a lot of people that watch football can understand was a good pass and was a good goal, but so many of them don't realize that that goal's been scored because someone has made a movement that not everyone's seeing, you know? So I want to be able to see that as well when it comes to other areas of my life, you know? So writing is something that, you know, when I feel ready and empowered to have my stuff out there in that way, I'll definitely send you a text.
Good man.
Hector, it's quite interesting to hear you speak because I don't think people think in this country necessarily that footballers are particularly thoughtful and read a lot and are intelligent. Do you think there's a difference between Spanish players and English players intellectually? Do you think you're the more cerebral in Spain?
No. I think football everywhere. I feel like I'm criticizing football a lot, and this is not what I'm trying to do. This is just something that I really feel it'd be something beneficial for footballers. I think clubs all over the world, and since you're young, they want to give you all the tools to be a good footballer, you know? They don't really necessarily give you all the tools to be a good citizen, to be a good human, to be a good husband, a good dad, etc. You know, all the education we take is focused on the sport, and you know, I think it takes time. It takes to have the good people around you. You have to be grounded. You have to be curious for life. There's a lot of people that are not curious, you know. It's very easy not to be curious when everything is given to you in your hand, you know. And I think I've been very lucky that my surroundings have always been really grounding for me. And you know, I also feel lucky, you know, because I felt like I've taken so many decisions in my life that they could have possibly turned me into someone completely different. And I feel very lucky and proud of where I am and where my head's sitting today. But I feel, you know, when you're comfortable, you don't need to question things because everything's good, everything's fine. You don't have to fight for what you're going to eat next month, for, you know, your family is covered. If you have an issue, you can go to a private hospital. You know, life is easy when you have money. Footballers have money. Footballers are idols. And I feel like football and clubs protect us too much in that way, you know. They don't really let us be the humans we need to be. How many times have you heard, you know, you're a footballer, you cannot talk about politics, for example, as if politics is something that doesn't affect you just because the fact you're a footballer. You're still a citizen, you know. Your family are still, or your friends are still being affected by all those things. So of course you have the right to talk about it, and you have the right to inform yourself, and you have the right to vote as a citizen, etc. So in so many areas that surround us, it feels like we're just being capped. And I don't think that's something healthy, you know. And I'm sure, Gary, know so many ex-players as well, how difficult it is for ex-players after to just take on a normal living, because they're out of the bubble. Life is completely different. And I feel like it's important to question these things before, not after, when you're out there, the world is open,
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of life after football, and you've got to think about the future whilst you play, and not once you finish playing. I think that's very important. But it's interesting you talk about the politics and the mix of football. I want to take a break now, and then I want to come to that in greater detail after the break. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to The Rest is Football and Politics today, I think we can say. We've got Alastair Campbell with us and Héctor Bellerín, who's part of a campaign, Green Football's Great Save. And tell us a little bit about that first, Héctor, as the ambassador that you are for them.
Well, I think it's a very positive campaign. I don't know, people who have listened to me before, they know I'm a big advocate for sustainability, or I like calling it more responsibility, in all areas of life. And I always felt that football is a big platform, is a very important thing in our societies. It's able to involve people from many different backgrounds, many different ideologies. It feels like sustainability is just one part of the politics spectrum, but it's something that affects us together. And I feel like football has the opportunity to bring so many people from different backgrounds and ideas to connect through something that's very simple, which is scoring a goal. And most people understand that, and most people who support a team enjoy that. And I feel it's a nice way to spread this message, because I feel like we're not really conscious yet of how awful it could be if one day there's like many teams in the UK that are flooded, some of the stadiums. If football becomes not possible because of our planet, because what we have done to our planet is going to be very difficult to take. And, I always feel like I'm always hopeful that we're still on time to make a change. So I think these kind of activities put the attention on something that's bigger than us, and the fact that football can, regroup everyone and for this kind of cause, I think is very exciting and good for all of us.
One of the things the campaign is doing, Héctor, is highlighting the number of shirts, football shirts, that end up in landfill. 100,000 tons of sportswear end up in UK landfills every year. That's 951 shirts every minute. And of course, we're talking here about materials that don't necessarily then allow themselves to be recycled or whatever. So one of the things the campaign is saying, can we hold on to our shirts a bit longer? But of course, the economic model of football is, home kit, away kit, third kit, change it every season, sometimes change it even more than that. But you've got some amazing stories, because you're also a shareholder at Forest Green Rovers.
Yeah.
And I want to come to that. But Real Betis, where you are now, is it true that the seats at the ground are made from fishing nets that have been recovered from the floor of the sea?
Yeah, that's actually true. They've made a few campaigns about that. Real Betis has a pioneering foundation, which is called Forever Green. I think it's the first club in Spain to actually have a foundation dedicated just for sustainability, ecology, and like climate change. They've reduced carbon dioxide in like more than 50% in the last few years. They've put even like electric scooters for workers that have to move from the training ground, stadium, etc. They also are planning with the authorities of the public transport for the fans that go to the game to have a cheaper price, so they can use public transport more. And actually, when I first arrived at Betis, I actually didn't know that this was something that they were doing. The foundation was just starting, but actually they're doing some great work every time that they go to a different European city, because we play a Conference League game, Europa League game. They always do like a river cleanup, or they plant trees, or they always try to involve everyone. Like, even though football is very competitive, at Betis, they're always trying to bring people from the other club, even players or academy players to do this kind of activities with them. Is a foundation that is doing that by also integrating people from poor areas here in Seville. Seville has like 3 of the 10 poorest cities in Spain. So they also work a lot with like reintegrating so many of these kids and families into society by giving them work at like different centers that Betis have around the city. So I feel like it's like overall great the fact that they're looking into big change, but by helping the small communities which are in our cities and in our areas, you know.
Tell us a bit about Forest Green. So you're the second biggest shareholder there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that happened during COVID. So many teams in the lower leagues were having financial trouble. I had Forest Green Rovers under the radar because I played a friendly with them. I think it was around 2013, 2014. And I knew that they were doing something regarding sustainability and stuff. I wasn't vegan at that time. Like for me, I went vegan around 7-8 years ago. And that's something that opened so many doors for me in terms of like how I viewed the world, how I consumed, in terms of like being responsible in how I make decisions in my life. And then during COVID, I met with Dale online, and I said, "Look, I love what you guys are doing."
As the owner,
Dale Vince, yeah,
Dale Vince is the owner, and I said to them, "I know so many of you guys are having trouble, so I would love to help. I love the project. If there's anything you need, I'll be here." And he was quite frank with me. He was like, "You know what? Actually, we're quite healthy at the time, but we would love you to be a part of this. So if you wanna be a part of it, we'll be very happy." And that's how it happened. And it was really good because it's been a partnership that since at that time I was at Arsenal, so we were able to link up both clubs, so Arsenal could learn so many of the things that Forest Green Rovers were doing. How could they adapt it to the top level and stuff? They've done the same with Betis in the past few years. So it's good that it's exciting, that the fact that Forest Green Rovers is a team that plays in the UK and at a lower league, and, their impact is not as big as a top flight team that has to travel all around Europe. But the fact that there's this willingness to learn and appreciate how it can work, is very exciting. And it means that, there's a will to change things,
Do you think football can do more or should do more? I mean, you look at the World Cup coming up next year. It's in America, Mexico, Canada, 48 teams rather than 32. They'll be flying all around everywhere. Do you think we're taking climate change seriously enough in football?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I agree.
I think football has also this idea that just by saying it cares about something is enough. In the UK we've seen it. They've done it with so many matters that they need a voice in society. I think football is not strict enough with these things. I think you need to create programs. I think you need to create even rules. I've been advocating for these kind of things for years, and if possibly I would have been able to touch a couple of people here and there, but I can't do nothing by myself. Like no one can do nothing by themselves. Yeah. And I also realized that men footballers, we very rarely have the power to get together and change something, In women's football, it happens quite a lot, and they're able to change stuff. And, they get together from different teams, different countries, and they're like, we don't agree with this. This is our fight. We'll fight together. In men's football, this doesn't happen. It happened during COVID with the Black Lives Matter movement, and I remember sitting with Troy, with Morgan, and there was a will to fight. All the players, we were together, and we actually created something pretty big, and I feel like there was a department that was created in the Premier League. I can't remember now, but I remember that there was an action that we all got together and we got a result. The place became safer for everyone, and I feel because that's not happening, because so many of these matters are matters that so many footballers don't really care about. No. If I'm honest, that's how I see it. It needs to come from the organizations, If the organizations, the leagues, the Premier League, UEFA, FIFA, whoever, if they don't say, you cannot travel this way, you have to travel this way, you cannot make this amount of kids, you have to make this amount of kids, it's not going to happen. It happens the same in politics, People, football is a business. So people at the top are just thinking, how can I make more money? Can I make 6 kids instead of 3? Yes. Okay, let's do it. If there's not a regulation about this, nothing is ever gonna change. And we can do all this, we can make this campaign and people can get conscious about reusing. But if there's not a club like, for example, Brentford, that say, no, this season we're not gonna make one, for 2 seasons you're gonna make the same, that is a true impact that it can create, Here at Betis, we organize 1 game a season. Is called the Forever Green game. And during that game, there's no plastic water bottles on the pitch. And when I speak to the director, to Rafa, I say, mate, this is amazing, but why the hell are we not doing this every weekend?
Everywhere.
You've seen that we can do it, And for me, this is one of the things. I think these activities, these occasions that we'll get together under a drive, and for one reason, and do these things. I think they're great, but I think this is just the first step. I think then it needs to be from the organizations, and sometimes it's the players.
You said there, though, that a lot of the players just sort of don't care. And I guess, for a lot of them, I always think it's unfair to expect footballers to be role models and diplomats and politicians, and I don't think they should be expected to. But I think when there are people like you who want to have a view, that's really important, and the more players that do, the better. But when you were sort of people, they know you, when you're at Arsenal, now you're at Real Betis, do the other players sometimes look at you and think you're a bit strange because you are so passionate about these other things?
They really do, man. They really do.
Do they?
Yeah, more than you think. It's almost like an inside joke now, But I don't care. For me, it's such a compliment at times.
What gave you the courage, Héctor, to speak out? And I use the word courage because I know how it can be, particularly, say, on a subject, not necessarily environmental or green issues, but, you've been strongly outspoken about the situation in Gaza with the Palestinians suffering. What gives you the courage and the conviction to actually speak out as a young man, a young footballer?
Well, if I'm honest, Gary, I had no other option at that time. It was eating me inside, seeing the things that I was seeing, just for the fact that I played football, not being able to have I felt like I didn't have the freedom to say it because I was a footballer and I represented who I represented. And, a team has its own politics, etc., etc. And for me, it was pretty difficult. And when I started being vocal about my thoughts, I had to do it slowly. I couldn't say everything I wanted to say. And thank God, because I was only like 19 and possibly I would have fucked up pretty bad. Well, I don't know if I want to say that, but I would have messed up really bad.
You can.
Unlike JD Vance, we believe in free speech, Hector.
Wow.
Yeah. Until they disagree with you.
Say what you want.
So I was, thank God that happened in that way. But it got to a point that I just realized I couldn't live any other way. And it was better for me to just receive the abuse than to not talk about it, honestly. The moment I opened that door, I just felt like, look, listen, this is who I am, And if social media is meant to connect with us, with people, to speak our thoughts, to create this community, I can't just talk about football. I'm so much more than football. I feel like everyone is, But as I said before, it's is very difficult because everyone else is telling you to shut up, don't talk about it, shut up, don't talk about it. So,
have the clubs that you've been involved with ever told you, come on, Hector, this is, I think you're treading on dangerous ground here. Can you be quiet? Have you ever had that from one of the clubs you've been at? Or
look, I feel like I've been also very conscious of the club's position, and I understand that I'm a part of a club, and so many times I've had to find the balance in between both things. There's been times that I've shut my mouth because I felt that what I could gain with that and what the team could lose, it was disproportionate, So I'm also conscious that someone is paying me to do a job, and that can affect that part. And it's very difficult at times to find that balance. There's been times, funnily, it happened not long ago. I was gonna do an interview with a newspaper here in Spain, and they brought all these cameras, and the press director asked them, "Are you gonna talk to Héctor Bellerín, the Betis player, or to Héctor Bellerín, the person?" And they were like, "Why?" And they said, "Because if you're going to talk to the person, you cannot take any videos of the Real Betis badges, etc." So they know me pretty well, and sometimes they invited me to an act that is going to be the president of Andalusia was going to be there. And I said to the press woman, "Look, if I go there and I have the opportunity to speak, you know what I'm going to say. So if you don't think it's in your interest, just send someone else. Like, I'm giving you the opportunity. You know me. I can't shut up, man. I'm just that way." So, we find a way to work around it.
Hector, do you think that one day you might actually go into politics, become an elected politician?
No. No, I feel like no.
He's brave, not stupid, Alastair.
Yeah. Well, I feel it's a complete different world, and even though I'm far away now from UK politics, for example, and since I came back to Spain, I really make a big effort to kind of recap of everything that happened during the times that I was in the UK, and I was so far off what was happening in Spain at a politics level. And, I'm someone that I have a very clear ideology, and when I speak up, I think it's very, very clear. But, I believe more in helping people in another way, because I feel when you get into politics, I just feel like no one really is able to do what they say they're going to do for whatever reasons, international relations.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, well...
don't rule it out, Hector. Don't rule it out.
I wish it was that way, but I've never had the opportunity to see it. Someone actually do what they say they're going to do. But I feel that my politics or the way that I would do that kind of job is just with my small communities over here, and like fighting for them. We have like big causes for here in Seville, for example, and I don't want to drive away from the topic too far, but all my friends are 30 years old, have a stable job, and cannot get a freaking flat to live in, and we fight for that. And,
well, you had these massive protests at the weekend.
Yeah, we had this massive protest also for public health as well. Here in Andalusia, for public health, we had one as well. So I try to be there when I can. I promote it when I can. I work with so many of these organizations at an internal level. I think that is my way to be a politician. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just don't want the public eye anymore. Do you know what I mean? I've been in the public eye for quite a long time. Gary, I don't know how you do it, mate. Well done, because that is difficult, and I feel like it's something that is always going to be there. But at the same time, I feel like I would like to decide how much in the center I position myself.
I'll say keep speaking up, Hector. Keep speaking up because you talk a lot of sense and you're on the right side. You're on the right side of things. And if people tell you to shut up, it means they're concerned about you and they think you've got some sort of power. So use that power for good that you've done for so long. And before you go, you've been very generous with your time. Tell us how we can help, how the people can help with the Green Football's Great Save campaign.
Well, actually by donating kids, right? That's the most important thing. I think there's a thing about the making decisions of how we consume. For me, that has been a life-changing lesson, just to actually think. If you need to buy something, think it for a week. Trust me, they make everything with our phones. So we buy everything today and we get it tomorrow morning. And I feel when we talk about our kids, this is about consuming clothes or consuming goods of the team that we support, etc. There's also so much value of things that have been around for years, I mean, vintage kids have been in style for very long now, so you can look cool wearing something from your granddad. Like, this is the times that we live in today. So go out and do it, But when we talk in the broad spectrum, people, I get this question asked a lot, if you can give one advice, what would it be? And I always say, vote. Vote is the most important thing that you can do. If we want change, the change has to be from the people that actually rule our countries. That
but Hector, let me...
Yes, Alastair, tell me.
Hector, let me just interrupt. So you've said a contradictory thing. You said vote, and I agree with you. But 2 minutes ago, you said you can't go into politics because none of them ever do what they say they'll do. So that's why actually more important than just voting is having the people to vote for.
Yeah, for sure.
That you think are going to do the things they say you'll do.
Of course, yeah. And but you cannot vote for yourself, can you? You have to be, you have to have a program first.
Well, you can.
Actually, that's a really good question, Alastair. That's a really good question. In an election, you'll know the answer to this. I mean, they're all in their own areas, obviously. Can you vote for yourself?
Absolutely.
Of course you can. You can.
Well, I vote for yourself, of course.
Yeah, you can vote for yourself. But Hector, I think you're saying no because you've got the real Betis communications director in the back of your mind. But I reckon one day you'll be mayor of Seville. Then I think you'll become a left-wing MP in the Spanish Parliament, and eventually you'll be at the Moncloa. How about that?
Sounds absolutely fantastic.
I'd rather play football until I'm 60.
Yeah, well, I played when I was 49. I played with Diego
Maradona. Here we go.
Gary hates me talking about it. Listen, let me give you the plug. www.greenfootball.org. That is where to go to find out how to help this campaign. And I must admit, Hector, the stats on the shirts were truly stunning. They really were.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It is extraordinary. Sure. Football can play its part, and I think this is a really important step in the right direction. I mean, if there are some climate change deniers out there, but you've only got to look about what happened in your country recently in Valencia. I mean, it's with us now, isn't it? So we've got to do something, haven't we? For the future generations, for my kids and their kids, and your kids and their kids.
Well, Hector is the future. He's a young man.
Exactly.
He's a young man. Just because he's been a famous footballer for 10 years, Gary, he's a young guy with his life ahead. He's going to be a writer and then he's going to be a politician. It's so obvious.
Gary,
he's going to he's making a difference. I know. Well, thank you for talking to two extremely old men. I've really enjoyed it, and I wish you all the very best, whether it be in football or politics or influencing people in the right direction. Ha sido un gran placer.
Igualmente. It was a great chat, guys. Really, really appreciate your time as well. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Hector. Thank you. Great to see you. Take care.
That's it for this episode. Goodbye from me.